The Buffalo Sabres are open for business. Let's talk about the Sabres and what we saw on Elliotte Friedman's little segment on Sportsnet yesterday, because his segment on the TV spoke about the Buffalo Sabres and how they are wide open for business amid a rough season. Now, I will leave a link in the description, first off, to the clip for the video, because it is available online, so you can go ahead and watch the entire segment if you please. We also will leave a link in the description to the ProHockeyRumours.com article, because they wrote about this. They actually published the entire summary of what Friedman said, and because it's easier to screenshot and put it on the screen, it'll be easier for you to follow along with me and what exactly we're talking about here when it comes to what Friedman says on Sportsnet. So, even if it's not Jack Eichel who is on the move anytime soon, because Sabres GM Kevin Adams did confirm that Eichel has not requested a trade yet, the Sabres appear to be preparing for a few busy months. Elliotte Friedman reported on the Saturday Headlines show that Buffalo is wide open for business and that they're listening on everyone. The insider, Elliotte Friedman, specifically mentioned Sam Reinhart, but he noted that nothing is left off the table. Here's the quote. "They are listening on all options. I think there's a number of things that people think they may do or may not do. I've heard there have been a lot of questions asked about Sam Reinhart. I've heard there have been questions asked about Eric Staal, in addition to some of the other names that you would expect. Nashville is out there, Detroit is out there, but Buffalo is the team that is definitely out there. And again, the word is they are listening to any possibility." That is a big piece of news, because all of a sudden, when you think of everybody being on the table, you don't just think of the Ristolainens and the Reinhardts and the Eric Stahls and the Taylor Halls. You think of the Eichels, you think of the Dahleens, you think of the Casey Middlestats and the Dylan Cousins, because it says all possibilities. And even though it may say all possibilities, you probably don't want to trade away a Dylan Cousins or maybe a Casey Middlestat, but I don't know. Is that really something you want to do? Let's go over and continue into this article over here. 4 different Sabres players were listed on the Athletics' recent trade deadline big board as Eichel, Brandon Montour, Casey Middlestat, and Taylor Hall as potential trade options as well. Of the group, only Hall has to deal with trade protection, yada, yada, yada. We'll see what happens with Taylor Hall. We already made a video about him, but I wanted to focus on all the other guys that have been mentioned in this conversation on the Athletics trade bait list, as well as Elliotte Friedman and his own thing on the TV. Now, first off, Sam Reinhart. He's 25 years old. He's from North Van. I've always had a very good soft spot for Sam Reinhart. It was really good seeing him with the Kootenay Ice all those years ago. But he's been a guy who was at his peak a 65-point player with the Sabres back in 2019. This year, though, 17 points, 20 games played. He actually has goals. Like, he's got 9 goals this year. He's literally the top goal scorer on this team, which is unfortunate because you expect Taylor Hall or Jack Eichel to have that title, but regardless, it is Sam Reinhart this year who is finding ways to put the puck into the basket. He's at 17 points in 20 games played, first in the team with points per game. He's tied with Eichel, actually, so there you go. He's a really interesting name to put over here because Sam Reinhart isn't really getting any younger, that's for sure. The guy's got a contract that takes him until 2021, so he is an expiring UFA at the end of this season, making $5.2 million. He signed that 1-year extension back in October. So, if he could be seen as a rental player by teams like Nashville, for example, who might be out there trying to get themselves over the hump, or maybe be acquired by another team that's looking for a nice young guy to help out in their long-term plans, like Detroit, for example, because those are the 2 names mentioned in this little segment for Friedman, it would make sense in theory. It's just, I don't know if there would be a big incentive to go out there and actually make this kind of trade, because I don't really know if you're actually going to win, you know? And I don't mean win as in like win hockey games, but I mean win the trade. If Buffalo is trading Sam Reinhart, how are they going to win that trade? Like, real talk. Talk to me about any team that's out there that would willingly acquire a mid-20s point per game guy, probably a point per game on a good team, but he's just under a point per game on Buffalo this year. You're taking this guy who definitely has a long-term future in the NHL. He's got a contract that expires this year, so you're going to have to re-sign him. But you want to make a trade for this guy, how are you going to win that trade? Like, What, you trade this guy away to a cup contending team and they give you a first-round pick back? That's not going to make you win this trade, Buffalo. That's absolutely terrible asset management. It'd be really difficult to win a Sam Reinhart trade if you're Buffalo, unless you're getting a player who is looking to be better than Sam Reinhart this year and projected towards being better than Sam Reinhart next year, the year after, and after that as well. And there's no team that's going to trade a player like that for Sam Reinhart. You feel it's kind of weird, this situation we have here, because with Eichel, at the very least, you have the ability to add on so many assets and picks because Eichel is Eichel. Taylor Hall, 1-year rental, he's got a position where he was signed as a free agent and all that, so he's in a difficult position. But Sam Reinhart was grown and bred in Buffalo since 2014. So it'd be really difficult, in my opinion, to justify departing with this project that you've had for 7 years just for another first or a couple of seconds or whatever, unless you're getting a roster player that's better, which wouldn't really be the case in my opinion, because if a team is going out there doing that, it wouldn't really make all too much sense in my opinion. So it's kind of a double-edged sword in my own frame of mind. Then you have Eric Staal. He's a guy whom we already spoke about with a few other teams like the Montreal Canadiens. He is an experienced veteran guy, not producing at nearly the same rate as he was last year, 8 points, 22 games played, but he's playing in Buffalo. Eric Stahl's a guy who definitely would have some value here. He is expiring at the end of the season as well, so he definitely has his own share of value, but he is a little bit older. He's not the Sam Reinhart who's 25. In fact, Eric Stahl is 36 years old, so yeah, he's a lot more of a rental, I would say, than a guy you can acquire to stick around long-term as well as help you out in the now. But with the point production, with the way things are going, with the trade that sent him to Buffalo initially, where they sent away Marcus Johansson, it's like, would the Buffalo Sabres want somebody of that caliber back? Because the trade and what exactly a return could be, the pieces are all up in the air, and we don't really have a definitive idea. Next up, though, on the Athletics trade deadline big board, Brandon Montour, Casey Mittelstadt, Taylor Hall. We have already spoken about Hall a ton, so let's not talk about him. Casey Mittelstadt is a really interesting name. And if I'm the Buffalo Sabres, I'm kind of thinking to myself, you know, this is a guy that we kind of rushed. Like, straight up, he was really good in the NCAA. He signed immediately. He came over to Buffalo. He had a little bit of success at the end of that 2017-2018 season, which is why a lot of people thought, oh, this guy's going to win the Calder in 2019. He's going to do this. He's going to do that. No, he didn't. He really did not perform up to expectations, and he got sent up and down between the AHL, and now he's a guy who is still pretty young. I mean, 2017 draft pick, right? He's in his early 20s. He's got a lot of room to grow, but if you're in a position where the Buffalo Sabres are like, yeah, this process has been taking a little bit too long, kind of uncomfortable with how it's been going, we're not really too sure if the certainty of what we wanted in 2017 is still there to develop from us, so who knows, if you go out there, you dangle Casey Mittelstadt's name in the trade block, and you try to get another young asset who is having a little bit of trouble transitioning all the way back. That's an interesting conversation to have. I personally am a huge fan of the skill set that Casey Mittelstadt has. The dangles, the inside-outsides, the dekes. We all kind of love flashy hockey players, and Casey Mittelstadt was supposed to be that. Remember that World Juniors all those years ago? Wow. Absolute Patrick Kane-like kind of player. Mitch Marner qualities with his hands. But the opportunity hasn't really been there, and when it was, he wasn't really able to put it all together. I mean, this season, he's got 3 points in 7 games played, which is a small sample size, but the points per game is a lot better than some of the other guys here on the Buffalo squad. So who knows if there's an opening for a Casey Mittelstadt in another team's system, like Detroit, for example. Wow. Imagine the Red Wings acquiring Casey Mittelstadt, a top 10 pick from the 2017 draft, because they totally need another one of those. But Brandon Montour is another guy whom I've been a very big fan of, back especially when he was in the Anaheim Ducks system. I was a big fan of what Montour was able to do. San Diego Gulls, Anaheim Ducks, 32 points in 82 games played back in 2018 when the guy was only 23. He's 26 now, and he's at 4 points in 20 games played. Now, you really hope there's a lot more in the tank for Brandon Montour, especially with the contract that he's at right now. It expires this year. He's making $3.8 million, so maybe if there's a chance for another team to go out there and try to reclaim this guy and try to get him up there as a reclamation project, there might indeed be some value there. Because, I mean, if Reinhardt and Montour and Hall and Stahl and all these guys are out here, and let's say they take their negotiating rights up to the date of free agency, and they're like, yeah, sorry, I don't want to come back. Like, why would I? it's a lot easier to say, okay, let's dangle these guys out on the market before April and the trade deadline. Let's see what we can get, and I don't know, just turn nothing into something for Buffalo. So that's the rumor over here. Apparently the Sabres are out there and they're open to any possibilities for trades. So talk to me in the comments what you think about guys like Mittelstadt and Dahlin and Eichel and Taylor Hall and Eric Staal and the other guys we mentioned in this video. Of course, Casey Mittelstadt is there, Brandon Montour as well. We spoke about the Predators and the Red Wings. Talk to me in the comments if you have any other teams that might be in the market for these kinds of players, what you think. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.